Welcome back to the Bella Grayce podcast, where we are empowering you to embrace the beautiful grace found in recovering your authentic self. And we are helping you build a fun-filled, sober lifestyle. And this season, we are doing that by sharing stories of people who are living a sober life and having fun doing it. And this week and last week, we talked to my friend Nicole. And Nicole last week told us all about her childhood and what it was like growing up in a single parent household where her siblings were not involved in the best things possible. And so she had a choice to either follow the footsteps of her siblings or forge a new path and go to college, and that's what she did. We also talk about her college drinking days and how that affected her and how it ultimately landed her in jail. So you're going to want to go back and listen to that one if you haven't listened to it already. We also, in that episode, talk about viewing people from a place of love rather than judgment and how the world could be a better place if we would see people for the hurting people that they are when they are acting out in anger. We talk a little bit about inner child work and therapy. So if you haven't listened to that episode, I suggest that you go back and do, because this week we pick up right where we left off last week and we start talking about the study that Nicole did with her therapist and the results of that study. So it was just a study that she did on herself, and it showed her the effects that alcohol had on her in the days after she would drink, and how that helped her see that she didn't need alcohol anymore and that it wasn't doing her any good. So let's dive in and pick up where we left off.
When I was doing that study going back to that study with my therapist, where he was, I was going in depression, and for a while there I was very depressed, crying for I think a month straight, and he was working on me because I had told him, he had said whatever you do during this time, don't drink, because it's just going to make your depression worse. Yeah. Which, if you don't know and you're watching this, alcohol is a depressant.
Yes.
Substances are depressant. The only way to get through your healing is to get through it, not get around it.
Process it, deal with the emotions, feel them.
Yes, because let's say this is your coping mechanism, whatever it is, overworking, alcohol, drugs, whatever it is, TV, binge eating, binge shopping. If you use this, your trauma is right here. You're only going to go around it.
Yeah.
But if you don't use it, you can go through your trauma.
Yeah.
And it didn't hit me. That didn't hit me, because I remember my therapist was always telling me this, but that didn't hit me up until this time when my therapist and I were working on, he was telling me, whatever you do during this time, don't drink. It's going to make it worse. Mm-hmm. And it's going to, the effects are going to last longer. Mm-hmm. And he had told me, the effects of alcohol or substances, they normally last 3 to 5 days in your system. Of course, you're drunk for what?
A night, 8 hours, 4 hours, whatever, depending on how much you drink. But
yeah, you're drunk during that time, that short period of time. Mm-hmm. But the effects of it still stay in your system for 3 to 5 days. Yeah. So I had told him we met the next week, and he said, "Did you drink?" And I said, "Yes, of course I drank." He was I didn't tell him like that, but I said yeah, I did drink. And he goes, "All right, well, here's the thing. You're not going to stop drinking. You're not, obviously, you're not listening. So I challenge you now to have a drink, and then just have one drink," he said, "just one, and then see how long those depressive thoughts last in your brain. Keep track of your memories. Yeah. Anytime a negative thought or depressive thought comes up about anything, write it down. Yeah. On your phone or whatever. And see how long it lasts." For me, it was 3 days. Even after the day I was drunk, then hungover, it was 3 days after that. So it was total of 5 days. Yeah. But it was 3 days. And after seeing that, and seeing how I could not control my thoughts. These depressive thoughts were still arising despite me like no longer drinking 2 days ago. I just thought, I think it's the control thing. For me, I have to have control.
Yeah.
Like it's something I'm working on. But seeing that I am not in control of my thoughts for those 5 days, and it made me realize I don't need this in my life. I don't want to have to set aside 5 days out of my life to be fully here, to be fully present, to be in full control of my body. And so after seeing that, I thought, do we really need this?
Yeah. No. 4 or 5 hours of losing yourself or being drunk or not having to deal was not worth the 5 days of losing complete control over your own thoughts.
No.
Yeah.
Especially because when I'm like that, when I'm having those sad, depressive thoughts, I don't like to be around people.
Yeah.
Because I don't want people to see that ugly side of me. I don't want people to see that side of me, and because of that, I isolate. So I have to set aside the additional 3 days, on top of the 2 days that I'm recovering, like drunk and recovering. I have to set aside 3 additional days from society, so just to have a night of 4 hours of drinking, like that, just make it make sense, you know?
Yeah, and when you put it that way, it makes total sense to go sober.
Exactly.
But when you're in the midst of drinking, you can't see past tonight. You can't see past this current relief. Like, you had a crap day at work. No amount of like telling yourself all of this like hypothetical whatever, like, oh, I'm gonna feel like crap for the next 3 days if I have these 2-3 old fashions tonight. Oh well, I'm gonna feel better tonight. But whenever you actually sit down, and this is what I tell my clients, is like, when I first start working with someone who's actively drinking, I don't make them stop drinking immediately. I don't. I tell them, over the next 5 to 7 days, I want you to pay attention to what drives you to drink, what you tell yourself to try to convince yourself not to drink, and then document how you feel in the days after you drink, and how long it takes for you to forget how bad you felt when you drank in the day after before you drink again.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we get drunk, and we're like, oh, we're never doing that again. And then the weekend rolls around, or another bad day rolls around, and there we are, drowning our sorrows, drowning our frustrations in a bottle of whatever it is that you like to drink. But yeah, it's you. But once you see it, there's no denying all that alcohol takes from you. Like, it's incredible. Yeah, I have heard a lot of people talk about that, like and I know from school, but like, it takes so long. Like, even after your liver has metabolized all the alcohol out of your system, your sleep is still affected, your skin is still affected, your hair, your nails, your everything, your memory, like your short-term memory is still affected. Your emotions are still affected. Like, your inflammation in your joints is still affected. Like, there's so many things that alcohol does to your body, and it stays in your system and keeps wreaking havoc on your body for days after the last time you drank. And now take someone who drinks every night. Their bodies never recover.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of it is knowledge, like knowing about this, because I think that therapists a lot for just, first of all, being so graceful with me. And when I told him, like, yeah, I did drink. But he told me, and I feel like at that time he's like, okay, well, she's not going to stop, so let me show her. Let me give her that knowledge of show her how the the alcohol is affecting her body. And that's when he challenged me to do that little study on myself. And I'm glad that he made me aware of it. Because after seeing that, I thought, oh, in a way, I thought, I'm not really free.
Yeah.
I don't really have freedom of my body. I don't have freedom of my mind. The alcohol has me right now in shackles. Alcohol right now in this moment has me locked up, incarcerated. It literally, to the point where I was incarcerated. So I was not free. I was not even free of my thoughts. And when I saw that not like, I was suddenly like struck by a knowledge of how alcohol had me in shackles. I thought, okay, clearly I'm not free like I thought I was. So this needs to stop. And lots of things, I benefited in lots of ways by becoming sober. First of all, having full control of my mind. Scripture says, keep a sober mind, be alert, be, aware. And once you are sober, like, you cannot heal without being sober.
Right.
It's
like having your foot in a dirty toilet and pouring peroxide on a cut on your foot. It does no good because all the crap in the toilet is still getting into your wound.
And people, like, I hear it sometimes, like, well, I only have, like, a little bit. I only have, like, wine, like a glass maybe once a week. And I'm like, you cannot heal without a completely sober mind. And a lot of the times, we drink to suppress our thoughts that we should be working on and healing on. So that's overall the biggest benefit is that healing, the healing power that you give your brain space and room and energy to heal any trauma that you may have that is unprocessed in there somewhere. For me, the biggest like benefit that I saw was breaking those generational cycles.
That's a huge one.
It is.
It's huge. I'm seeing, like, my daughter is in high school and all of her friends are drinking and they're all partying, and she sees me sober and having fun, and for all I know, she may have, she may drink, whatever, but I know she's not doing the same things that some of her friends are doing because she has seen me model sobriety, and she's like, I don't like drunk people. I don't want to be that drunk. And one day she when her friends did something, and she said, you can be that drunk? And I'm like, yeah, you can be so drunk that you don't know what you're doing. Like, you are walking around, moving around like a normal human being, but your mind is completely blank and you are not going to remember it. You don't know what you're unaware. You are unconscious mentally. And that's huge to me because I'm like you, I've come from a long line of alcoholics. I have one uncle who has passed away who stopped drinking, and so I never knew him. I don't remember him ever drinking. And I have one aunt who is like a second mother to me, and she is one of the only people in the family who I've ever seen drink, quote unquote, normal. Like, she would have one margarita or she would have like one wine cooler at a family get together, and that was it. Because she always valued being sober and present for her kids. And I saw her get stressed out. I saw her be torn apart emotionally. I've seen her struggle, but not turn to alcohol as a coping mechanism. And it's like that she was always my model, but I didn't know how to do that. I was never taught how to do that. And so to teach my daughter how to do that is huge. And it makes me really proud. And I can't, like, kudos. Huge pat on the back to you for the generational cycle that you've broken, and that you're going to have generations after you, your kids, or if you don't have kids, the kids that you come in contact with, like, you have the power to influence your nieces and nephews the way my aunt influenced me.
Yeah, and I just want to say kudos to you, because like just the role model that you've created in your daughter as well. I'm sure she's also, influencing other peers that roam around her that have also seen like, oh yeah, you're right, like we should.
Yeah, that's her hope. That's her hope. She's had to unfriend a couple of friends because they were doing stuff that she wasn't okay with at a really young age, and it broke her. She was super upset, and like she felt ostracized, and she started high school with no friends because she unfriended her friend group the summer before high school started. And so she has suffered for the values that I try to instill in her, but I'm proud of her because she does try to stick to those, and she tries to be a light to her friends. And I think it's funny because sometimes she'll ask me questions about drugs, and I'm like, how do you not know this? I'm 21 years older than you. I'm not even cool anymore, and I know the answer to that question. I'm the cool mom, even though I don't drink or do drugs.
That's so
She's
funny.
gonna listen to this and be like, "Oh my god, Mom, really?"
We love you.
Yes, she listens to all my podcast episodes. So I'll hear it for this one. But anyway,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. No, I definitely do it. I think when you see it, when you no longer see it for selfish reasons, like at first I was like, well, I'm doing this because it's me. I changed my perspective, and I feel like my perspective changed when I really thought of the impact that I'm going to make in the generations after me. And I think a lot about like my family, because I eventually want to have a family. That's what my heart desires, is to get married and have a family. And I think about my children, and I think about like my inner child. It thinks like, how can we protect our children? How can we raise children to not have to resort, or to not have to resort to alcohol or substances to cope? How can we protect them in that way? And I think a lot of it is not really involving those things in our lives, like and but also educating them. And I love how we had a conversation about how you educate your daughter on how alcohol affects you and how much alcohol you should consume every hour and things like that. And that made me think like education is power.
because they're gonna be around it. Like right now, my daughter is at a lake house for prom. Like the friend group that they went with, they got a huge party bus. It took them out to the Cowboy Stadium for prom, and then they were going to a lake house. And so they went out to the lake house, and they're there partying. Probably, I don't know. There's two couples, like two sets of adults watching them, but there's like 12 teenagers, and they're all seniors except for my daughter and I think like one other girl that are sophomores. And so it's like they're gonna be exposed to it.
Yeah.
She's gonna be exposed to weed, to drugs, like to alcohol. I don't ever want her to accidentally take a pill from someone because they're like, oh, take this. You're going to have fun. It's going to be great. And she takes it and it's laced with fentanyl and she dies. Like, I don't ever want that to be her story. So I've always been open with her and talked to her about like what packaging the drugs come in, like what it smells like, what it feels like, what it does to you, what the potential consequences are, like how it affects your brain in the long term. Like literally last night on the way to the prom, like the pre-prom thing that they had going on, I was telling her about acid and how it gets stored in your spinal fluid, and how like decades later you can have a flashback and be on a trip all over again. And like telling her those things and being open and honest. And also, when she became of age to where it was appropriate, being open and honest with her about my own struggles. And so she knows that I was a drug addict in high school. Like, she knows I struggled with drugs for a long time. She knows all the things. Like, I didn't tell her before she was too, she wasn't like 5 years old and I'm telling her, like, Mommy was a drug addict in high school. Like, it was appropriately timed by her age, but it is important. Like, you have kids going to parties and getting blackout wasted because they don't know how to drink responsibly. No. Our kids don't know what we don't teach them. It's like what you were saying, like, our parents can't love except for how they were loved because they don't know any different. And our kids only know what we teach them. Yeah. So if all we know is unhealthy drinking, unhealthy coping, then that's what we're teaching our kids. Yeah. But thank God for people like you and me and other people who are learning and healing and learning new ways of coping with life, because we're going to be the ones to pass it on to our kids and show them a different way. And we have to be open. We have to be honest. We have to be real with them. Yeah. Like, kids are being exposed to drugs and alcohol at younger and younger ages, like 6th grade. Yeah. 7th grade is when my daughter came to me and said 2 of her friends wanted to smoke weed. They started vaping at the beginning of 7th grade. A couple months later, it was weed. A couple weeks later, it was acid. In the 7th grade.
To that extreme, so quickly.
That quickly. It escalated that quickly. I went from like, okay, well, I mean, vaping is a big deal. A lot of people vape, especially kids your age. Like, it's really popular. And trying to tell my daughter that to, oh, they're going to try weed. And I was like, oh, God. And then before I could even like process how to handle this situation, she's like, they want to have a sleepover and they want me to come babysit them because they're going to try acid for the first time. It escalated that quickly. And so I tell young parents all the time, I'm like, you have got to educate your kids as early as possible. Like, and be in tune with what's going on at their schools. And we live in a really great neighborhood. Mm-hmm. Like, we live in a nice neighborhood in Dallas that's highly sought after because of the school systems. And so I never expected my daughter to be exposed to drugs in the 7th grade in this neighborhood. Yeah. The neighborhoods I grew up in with my cousins, oh, hell yeah. Yeah. Probably the neighborhoods you grew up in. Yeah. Like, it was expected that by 6th grade you were going to be smoking weed or doing whatever, or gangbanging or smoking, drinking beer on a Friday night. Here, not so much. Yeah. But so being in tune with what's going on in your kids' lives so that you can kind of try to see like the climate and where things are going so that you can pop in and be that voice of reason and that voice of wisdom when they need it.
Yeah. Yeah, because, if you don't educate your kids, they're going to learn it eventually.
The world will.
The world is going to teach them. Their peers are going to teach them who also don't have...
Yeah. They're also idiots.
They haven't been taught the right way or educated. Yeah. So, yeah, I admire you for that a lot because I'm definitely going to like hit you up when I have kids and have to start having those conversations. Yeah.
It's been the same way with everything. I always tell her like the sex talk. I'm like, it's not, while parts of sex are emotional, it is a biological conversation.
It is.
We need to take the emotion out of it and have a biological talk. Yeah. If you do X and Y, Z can happen. Yeah. Yeah. Like, we need to get real with our kids and we need to talk to them, especially with, the whole abortion rights thing. Like, it's a whole nother rabbit trail, but you need to educate your kids because if they don't feel comfortable talking to you about, hey, so-and-so came up to me with a bag full of pills. I don't know what to do with it. Like, someone gave my daughter gummies for her birthday. She was like, Mom, I don't know what to do with this. But because we've had those open, honest conversations of like, you can come to me always. And like, if you don't have those conversations with your kids, you're going to wake up one day and your child is 6 months pregnant because they didn't feel comfortable coming to you to ask for birth control, to ask for condoms, to ask for whatever. And now they're going to have a baby in 3 months.
Yeah.
Like,
so true. I think about this story I recently was told by someone, not going to name them, but they were saying how their kid was suspended because they were caught with a vape. And it was one of those weed vapes. And her kid said, a friend gave it to me to hold on to. And I thought, he said he thought it was just a vape.
Yeah, because if you don't know any different, they look the same. But if you know, you can tell right off the bat. Yeah.
And I just thought, like, if we would have educated, maybe we would have been avoiding this. Yeah. But this is just so, he was suspended, so, it is kind of a big deal. But this is a small deal compared to, like, pregnancy deal, because that's a human life we're talking about at that point. Like, you're messing with God at this point.
Yeah, that is a human created in your body. Like, that is a life.
That's God. You're no longer playing with schools. You're playing with, like, it's like a vertical thing now. Like, it's with God.
Yeah.
So I just think about that often and just educating children. But yeah, like, I feel like recently with all of these changes that I've been experiencing in my life, like becoming sober, I feel like in a way it's like God preparing me to be a mother. Even thinking about like these conversations that I'm gonna have with my kids, like because I don't want to exclude them from alcohol. I don't want to hide alcohol from them. I want to show them like what's the appropriate way to drink it. And because I don't want to shelter them either. I want to educate them so that when they are exposed, that they're not learning it from the world, that they're learning it from me, that as their mother. So I think about that often too. And there's many more like benefits from becoming sober. Your body overall just changes. You have more energy. Your skin. A lot of people always ask me like, how do you have great skin? And I thought it was weird how my skin cleared up and started looking like this when I just stopped drinking. Yeah. Even my face like got like more refined.
Because you're not puffy from the alcohol.
Alcohol causes a lot of inflammation. Yes. Just right off the bat, I don't know how many times like my siblings will say like, I'm just so puffed up from drinking last night. And I'm like, and I send them articles, like research articles. I'm like, screenshot and send it to them. And I'm like, it says it here. Like, your inflammation on your face and your body, and it comes from the alcohol. Because you're so dehydrated. So your body's like trying to store all that water. And and on top of that, like, just it also inflames your stomach lining. And that's another thing too, that it's what your skin is a reflection of what your stomach looks like. And alcohol also is damaging all of that.
It is.
So that was another thing that I saw that it was very beneficial, just having like more energy, and my skin getting better. And then I think the best one is the amount of money you save.
Oh, I know. Yes.
Just because like, I mean, here in Dallas, like alcohol, we can go out, it just costs a lot, first of all.
Oh, yeah.
And then on top of that, they add the 20% gratuity, like automatically at bars now. And I think that's like absurd, but I'm like, thank God I don't drink anymore, because that's...
Most of the time our little, like, unless you order like a frou-frou mocktail, like soda water with lime or a tonic with lime, it's free. But
I've noticed that if you order like a mocktail, like just lemonade with just some, I don't know, strawberry syrup, they give it to you for free.
They do. That's one of my favorites. I like lemonade with the grenadine, or I like tonic because it tastes like grapefruit, juice with a splash of cranberry juice because then it's like tart and I won't drink it as fast.
Oh.
But it's really good if you've never had that. It's one of my favorite things to order at the bar.
Yeah.
Tonic with a splash of cranberry.
Yeah.
And it looks cool. Like it looks like
Yes.
it's a drink. And so people don't bother you about why
Yes.
you're not drinking.
Yes, that's something I've had to recently pick up on doing.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I don't want to drink, like I'm not thirsty or anything, I just grab one.
Yep.
I tell them like lemonade or something, or even water.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just tell them like add like a splash of like something in
Yeah.
it to make it look colorful so people can think I'm drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Just to avoid those conversations.
Yep.
Because people are gonna ask, like,
Yeah.
especially when you're out drinking. I feel like people ask more because they feel like they're being judged.
Yeah. You're not drinking makes them uncomfortable.
Yes.
Yeah. And I try to tell people, I'm like, that is a reflection of them, not you. And it has made me start to not feel sorry for them, but to like empathize with where they are in life.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, I try to like view it from that lens of like, that it's a reflection on them, not of me.
Yeah.
Because people who are healthy and happy and drinking normally, quote unquote, normally, who don't have a problem with alcohol, who aren't using it as a coping mechanism, they're like, oh, cool, more power to you, cheers. Like, they're all for it. They're like, they don't judge you. They're like, cool, yeah, I should probably do that.
That's so true. I've had some people tell me that.
Yeah. But the ones that are hurting and using it as a coping mechanism are the ones that are going to be like, you don't need to stop drinking. It's fine. Here, let's go get a shot. One's not going to hurt you. Yeah.
And that's my thing is when people are like, oh, you're not drinking? Why?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then they still offer you shots.
Yeah.
They're like, come on, just take one. Like,
Just one.
Just one. You haven't had one in a while. Like, just have one.
Yeah.
I'm like.
So, what have you done to, because we said we were going to touch on boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So, what have you done to set some boundaries with your family? Have you had to? Do they support your recovery? Like,
yes, I've had to set a lot of boundaries with my family and, you know, some of my friends too. I actually lost a lot of friends when I became sober. Even before that, I lost a lot of friends because I was just like, I realized when I stopped drinking, I realized I found myself. I found who I truly am, like the things I really like. And one of the things I don't like to do is staying out late.
yeah.
I'm a homebody person. I love sleeping. And I mean, my family knew this already. Like, they know I love sleep. They know that, like, I'm low-key a grandma. Like, I love just being in warm, fuzzy socks and just kicking back and just being, like, just relaxing.
Yeah.
I'm such a homebody person. So to go out and be out in a space, like, late at night, I realized it's not my thing. So that was one of the boundaries that I set with a lot of my friends once I started to find myself, is that I cannot go out at night clubbing.
Yeah.
Like, clubbing, and another thing too is I realized I'm not a crowd person.
Yeah.
I don't like being in crowds.
I've discovered that about myself too.
I get so anxious, and I don't realize that I become so anxious that, like, it kind of gets me like riled up, like, you know, just like. And I'm like, what is
on edge? Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm looking around, like, you know, observing the whole room, like watching everybody, and
you're uncomfortable and you can't enjoy anything like that in that state. I've discovered that about myself too.
Yeah.
And it's hard for my husband because he likes to be like in the center of the crowd in a concert, like right in the middle. And if you ask him about it, he'll say that he doesn't. But once he starts drinking, like, that's where he wants to be.
Yeah.
And when I was drinking, I don't know if I was drinking to make myself okay with that, or if I was okay with it because I was drinking. It's like the chicken and the egg. But that has been something that we've had to, like, compromise on since I stopped drinking, because if we're in the middle of the crowd, I'm not having fun.
Yeah.
I'm very on edge. I'm very, very, like, in knots.
Yeah.
And can't relax and have fun.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So being out in a club with a bunch of people who are drunk that, you know, are probably being rowdy, is something that I'm not a fan of.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather be at home, in peace.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've had to set that boundary that I am not a club person.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I can maybe go and hang out with you at a low key speakeasy bar. I love speakeasy bars, by the way.
They're fun.
They're so sweet.
Yeah.
They're so fun. They're so cool.
Yeah. You feel so cool. It's like underground. Like they're always dark, and they have great mocktails.
Yes.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah. And I don't know why, but I feel like the food there is also always good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I had to set that boundary with the family and friends too. It's rare. Like I really have to like you to put myself in that position.
Yeah.
And even at that, I'm like, oh, I don't want to be here for long.
Yeah.
Just so you know, like maybe like 30 minutes,
And that'll be good.
an hour's tops. But yeah, clubs is one thing that I've had to set boundaries with my family, especially, and some of my friends. And I think that after telling some of my friends, like, hey, I'm good, I'll meet y'all next time, or hey, maybe we can grab brunch. Eventually, our friendships died down.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, hey, I don't support you, bye. It was just like, hey, that's like, I'm fine. I'll join y'all next time, or maybe we can grab brunch. And then I think they started to see that I was not really, that was something I didn't want to do anymore.
Yeah.
But my family, they know, like they'll still invite me, but I'll just say I'm good.
Yeah.
I'll stay back. Like maybe we can grab like breakfast in the morning. But yeah, that's one of the boundaries. The other boundary, and you know what makes my heart so full is when I stopped drinking. I have another brother, who is sober, but he's been sober for I think going on his second year. And I applaud him so much because I think he was the first one in my family that became sober. And he has a similar story to mine, but like he got himself into more trouble with the law. So he was kind of forced to become sober at one point.
Yeah.
He had to like do the machine and everything. And with him, I think after being on the machine for so long and then seeing how his life is better without drinking, he just decided to become sober.
Yeah.
And
I always say it doesn't matter how you got sober, it just matters that you got sober.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If he's sober, then I became sober. Now I have two sisters, who are also now slowly becoming sober. And it makes my heart so full knowing
It's that ripple effect. Yeah. Like your one brother and then you and now more of your siblings. Like yeah.
I think it's so
beautiful.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, it's that generational cycle, and I think it's slowly happening with because I even have siblings, nieces and nephews who have seen us adults, like who they would never even thought like, hey, like, when you're raised to think that the parents are like perfect, like they don't do anything wrong.
They're superheroes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when my nieces and nephews would see like their parents or their aunts and uncles like act foolish because of drinking, I felt like for some of them they're like turned off by it now. They're just like, we've seen how that affects people and we're good.
Yeah.
Like,
no, thank you.
No. And because I have a niece who's a young adult now, early young adult, and she doesn't drink like that. Like she's like, I feel like she's told me before, like, I've seen how you guys act.
And I don't want any part of that.
Exactly. But
and that is the other side of the coin of like drinking versus not drinking. Like my daughter sees, because all of our friends still drink, like my husband's friends and mine, like they all still drink, and so she sees what they're like drunk, and she's like, yeah, no thanks.
Yeah.
I don't want that for my life. Yeah. And so there are two sides of the coin. Like sometimes having people in your life that drink can be a blessing.
Yeah. No, it can. Yeah. No, definitely. And yeah, like I'm very happy to see my family like finally that happening in them. I am very proud of them, and I hope this continues because it's just so beautiful to see it come into play. But I think because there's so many of us that are sober or becoming sober, and they don't really like our hangouts when we do meet up and we're all together. It doesn't revolve around alcohol anymore.
Yeah.
Versus before, we would be like, all right, this is the alcohol menu. We're having a mimosa bar or like a tequila bar or, it was always something to do with like we were always like, who's gonna bring the alcohol? Like the conversations were always around alcohol, versus like other stuff. What are we gonna get what are we gonna do for the kids? Things like that. So, I think it's gotten easier, but that doesn't go to say that like the temptation's still there. Like there are times when we're at parties and it's an open bar and people are having shots and they're coming around like with shots and you have to have that will and that power to say like oh, I'm fine, I'll go get myself my own drink. But I think that a lot of the boundaries are setting within yourself. Really asking yourself like, what are some boundaries that I need to put in play so that I can avoid those conversations, or not necessarily avoid, but just deter them. Like, and I think that getting mocktails is one of them. Like that's one way to avoid those conversations with people. Because they're gonna ask. They are. Like people are just gonna ask, especially if you've always drank and you were like a heavy drinker or you used to drink all the time. They're gonna ask. The conversation's just gonna come up. So you just have to prepare yourself, and a lot of the times for me, what helps me is like getting those mocktails, or if that's not available, just not going. And I think it takes a lot of power to not go, because you can feel like you're being left out. And
FOMO and sobriety is real.
It really is. It really is.
And it drags a lot of people back.
Yeah. And I think that's when you really have to ask yourself, like, do I maybe need to make other friends? Luckily, when I became sober, I lost a lot of my friends, but I also found Shoreline. And when I found Shoreline,
you gain a whole family at Shoreline.
You really did. And I'm so blessed. Like, man, God is so good, because I got put with friends that are, for the most part, sober. Like you, Arthur. I have another friend, Jackie. She's not sober, but she doesn't drink. Like I don't think I've seen her have a drink, but she does drink. And then I just have so many other friends that they don't drink often.
I know, it's funny. Like you've been over here for some of our get-togethers, and normally like get-togethers like that in this house would have a cooler full of beer. And we have the best time. Like one day we were dancing in here, like this is my dining room and there's a living room right over there, and like we were just dancing and having a good old time. Like we watch movies, we eat, and no one even like misses the booze when we get together. Like it's not even a question.
No.
So many of us are intentionally living a sober life. But B, like we have so much fun just talking and having genuine conversations and getting to know each other. And I've made so many friends at Shoreline, like all of you guys. And I've met all of you at different times and then discovered that we all actually know each other. And it's kind of crazy. That's why I had that Friendsgiving here to bring together the 3 life groups that I was a part of, so that because we all knew each other anyway. So it's like, why don't we just all get together?
I love that. Because I met America there, and I had already known her. Like, it's weird because I had already run into her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, you can have fun with being sober. There's so many ways. Like, it was funny because I went back home for Easter, and, you know, in my mom's home, there's no drinking allowed. And so it was at my mom's home, and we were all like, kind of sitting there like twiddling our thumbs, like, all right, normally this is a time when we drink, we all, take shots.
Yeah.
But because like there's no drinking, everyone was kind of like, so what now? Like,
Yeah. What do we do now?
Yeah. And luckily, I had thrown in my card games in my car, and we started playing Uno.
Yeah.
And it was the funniest time, the funnest thing ever. And we were just having a blast.
Yeah.
I think we stayed up till like 2 a.m.
Isn't it crazy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just laughing and giggling at each other and just like poking fun with each other and at the end of the day, we all woke up the next morning early because we were, of course,
not hungover.
Mm-hmm. And all made breakfast. We made tacos and then went to church. And it was just.
And the beautiful thing of that is that you all remembered that incredible night.
Yeah.
Like, that is a memory that all of your siblings will have with them.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we even had like my nieces and nephews in there playing.
Yeah.
We were just picking on each other. And it was just a fun thing. We're taking pictures and doing all this stuff. But yeah, I love how being sober is, and it really helps you be present. I recently, well not recently, but I remember this time I was going back home to visit my family, and I had a message to tell them. Like, I felt like God was telling me, talk to your family about this. And I had done something where I wasn't sober anymore. Mm-hmm. And the whole reason I went out the window because I was no longer present.
Yeah.
And I beat myself up for the longest time about that. Like, I was not there. And I had to go there to deliver this thing to them. And because I was not present, because I wasn't in my reality, I didn't accomplish the reason why I went all the way over there. So I was like, man, Nicole, you really gotta get it together. And after that, I was like, no more. Like, this is the end.
It was stealing your purpose.
It was, yes.
In one moment, for one instance, it was stealing your purpose, but overall, it was stealing your purpose.
Yeah. And I think about, like, even, and this is just with, like, my nieces. I love my nieces so much, and I think about, like, I used to love them so much when they were, like, little. I still love them, but, like, when they were babies, because I have 3 nieces, they were all born a month apart.
Oh.
And they all got to see each other in each stage of life, right? And I remember when they were born, I was 18, and they were so beautiful, and I just remember, like, thinking, I want to be here every moment. Like, I want to be here present. But because I was, like, numbing, because I was drinking, that time, like, now they're 8, and I think about this often, like, time really flew. Where did the time go? Like, I just remember looking at y'all one day, and now y'all are...
You're grown.
Yeah.
And I was not there for it. Yeah.
And that makes me sad. And I can't imagine having my own kids and thinking that same thing. So that's, like, one of my biggest, I guess, like, motivators is my future generation.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many boundaries, I think, that within yourself, like, you really have to work on.
Yeah.
And ask yourself, like, really, truly be honest with yourself. Ask yourself, like, why are we choosing this? Like, why can't we set this boundary? Like, why do I have to go hang out with these friends? Like, what's the real FOMO there? Is it because we want to drink, or is it because we don't want to be left out by this friend group? Because if it's the friend group, let me just break the news to you. There are more friends out there who will support you. Because I have friends that do still go out and drink and do that stuff that it's just not me. But I'm, I still hang out with them, but I hang out with them in other.
Yeah, they're willing to meet you where you are.
Mm-hmm.
They're willing to compromise to still have that friendship.
Exactly.
And then there's the friends who aren't willing to compromise. And those are the ones that maybe it's time to let go of. And ask yourself, like, what fear, what need, what broken part of me am I trying to fill with these people?
Yeah.
Because that's what you need to work on in yourself, because you shouldn't be relying on people to fill any part of you.
Right.
And so, yeah, like if you're experiencing FOMO, really dig in and see why.
Yeah.
What's driving this?
Yeah.
And be okay sitting by yourself.
Yeah.
Sitting with your feelings, sitting with your emotions, and just feeling them.
Yeah. And that's one thing that a therapist and I worked on, being okay in our own skin.
Mm-hmm.
Like realizing that you're not alone, that you're not spending time alone, that you're spending time with yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I had to work on myself and set boundaries with myself, because I was not spending time with myself, because I was not comfortable hanging out with. I did not like this person I was with when I was with myself. And that's when therapy plays. That's when you have to really dig deep and ask yourself, like, why don't we like spending time with ourselves? Like, we should like this person that we spend time with when we're by ourselves, because this is us. Like, if you don't like yourself, you're never going to like being with someone else.
Yeah.
And that's something I had to work on a lot.
Especially if you want to be married and have a family, you can't take a broken self into a marriage and expect it to last.
No.
It has to be two whole people coming together to build a house, to build a home, to build a family. It can't be two half people. I always hate it when people are like, oh, she's my better half. No, you should be a whole person, a whole well person.
Yeah.
All on your own. Because if that person dies, if that person whatever, like, you have to be comfortable. You have to know who you are.
Yeah. Definitely. I can't think of any other boundaries right now, but I'm sure that they're going to come up later.
Yeah. And we're going to have a part 2. We're going to talk more with Nicole at some point.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, okay, last question. If you could tell someone who is like you, coming into adulthood and coming out of that fight or flight mode, who had a really checkered childhood, if you could tell that person, speak some life into that person, what would you tell them?
Coming out of fight or flight. I would say, well, first of all, be kind to yourself. I know this is hard. Just be kind to yourself. And man, there's so many things. Like, what you're really searching for is saving. And Jesus already died for our sins, and he already saved us from this. And we have a heavenly Father who is our Father, and he loves us, and he can heal us. So in that time when you're coming out of fight or flight, you're looking for someone to come and save you, and that's what God is there for. So just reminding them about God, and just saying, like, be gentle with yourself. You're safe now. And no one can hurt you unless you allow them to hurt you.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest things, because for me, at least, I didn't see it until now that I feel like I'm out. Like I've gone such a far ways along. That God saved me from a lot of things. He was really there in a lot of times that I in a lot of moments that I got myself into or that I was put into, that I was like, oh my gosh, how am I gonna get out of this? Or like, how did I survive? And it was all God. So I wish I would have had a relationship with him, like a better relationship with him, early on. And I think that that's where I would have, if I would have had a relationship with him coming out of that, like if I would have really searched for him instead of searching for ways to numb, to cope, I would have saved myself so much pain. I would have saved myself so much time, and I would have been different. And I'm not to say that I'm not grateful for the way that things turned out now or how I am now, because I am. I wouldn't be the person I am today. But if I would have, had a closer relationship, seeked God first instead of seeking all these other things, I would have definitely saved myself so much pain and agony. It was hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's what I would say. Just be gentle with yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's hard.
It is hard. Healing is hard. Getting out and coming out on the other side is hard.
It is.
But you touched on, and I guess that's probably what I'll close with, is the beautiful grace found in truly uncovering your authentic self when you do get sober. And like remembering what brings you joy and what brings you peace. And maybe it's not remembering it, maybe it's rediscovering it, discovering it for the very first time. So thank you.
Thank you
for being on. So this was Nicole, and we are going to have her back, I'm sure.
Yes.
We have so much more to talk about. There's so much more to her story that we didn't even get to. So you're going to have to stay tuned and pay attention for when that comes out. But until then, be well, be kind, and may you have a great week. Bye.